Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thank you for joining us. We are streaming live here on YouTube as well as TikTok for the first time. We're giving that a shot. Can't believe it's already 6 o'clock Mountain Time, which is what we do every Tuesday night, and here we are. So, to our Crime Talk aficionados, you're probably saying, Scott, where is my video? Where have you been the last 2 days? Busy. That's the only thing I can say. Super crazy busy. Had to go out of town yesterday. Got back yesterday. Crazy. Today, crazy. Haven't had time. Had to do some of that legal stuff. But I am here to talk to you about, well, what we normally talk about. We can talk about anything because this is your show on Tuesday nights. Ask your questions, and we will answer them. Bottom line. A lot of stuff in the news, though, as we get going. Obviously, the round 2 for the Ahmaud Arbery trial begins. They're trying to select jurors regarding the civil rights violation as it relates to Travis Gregg and Roddy Bryan. And, they're basically bringing in 1,000 jurors in that case to seat a jury of 12 plus I think they're looking for at least 4 alternates. So 16 people, 1,000 potential jurors to get 16 people to serve on a trial that's going to last several weeks. So you think, wow, I mean, really what that boils down to is that are there 16 people that have never heard of the Ahmaud Arbery case? My guess is we're probably going to find 16 people that have nothing, or at least if they've heard about it, they said that they can be fair and impartial. I'm sorry about that. Somebody. All right. Sorry. When I told you it was a busy day. Wow. Yeah, it's a busy day. We also have the Crumleys. They're charged with the manslaughter charges coming out of their son Ethan, who did that whole school shooting thing up there in Michigan. And the question is whether there's going to be enough evidence for the involuntary manslaughter charges to go against the parents. I think it's a unique charging theory. It doesn't take much for the case to get beyond a preliminary hearing. Probably going to be bound over for trial. But the question really then becomes, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, in the legal system in the United States, we are there to charge people for their individual conduct. And if they act in concert with other people, then they can be held accountable. But, I can't think of all of the horrific things that have taken place over years where somebody's gone to the school and done something, and you all know what I'm talking about, but, if you use those words, the censors will get you. We all know what they're talking about. Where somebody goes to school, done it. How many parents have they ever charged? How many have they ever charged? None, because we hold people accountable for their actions, not their family members, unless they actively participated. They said, hey, son, don't forget your gun. Go to school. Don't forget, today's the big day. Then they should be held responsible. If they're just crappy parents and, they don't pay enough attention to their kid, that he feels a little down, a little blue, and, oh, woe is me. People don't like me in high school or junior high. Oh, guess what? Welcome to life. It's called, life. Things don't always work out the way you're supposed to. You don't go doing terrible things at the school. But it's no reason to actually charge the parents in that particular case. And I know it's heinous. A lot of people will be like, Scott, I can't believe you're saying that. But it makes no sense. Where does it stop? Why blame the parents? Where were the grandparents? Better yet, the neighbors, okay? I have a case on appeal right now, the exact very same issue. If a child dies and there are people that are on a property but not close in proximity, should you be held accountable for what somebody else did? You didn't know what was going on. You didn't do it. But they say, close enough. You're on the property. You were on the property. You could have done it. Well, we'll see what the Court of Appeals, thinks about that kind of situation. But the big news today, okay, we've talked about this in the past for quite a bit. This is going to get good. This is the Scott Peterson case. Remember, Scott Peterson gets convicted for killing his wife back in 2004. And a lot of people may not remember this case, but it was a big, big deal. Kills his wife. He just happens to go fishing that day, and her body washes the shore, and, what have you. He's ultimately convicted, his wife, Lacey Peterson, and her unborn son. She washed ashore about 4 months later. The California Supreme Court has already reversed the death penalty sentence in that case. And the prosecution has now said that they're not going to go forward with the death penalty. But Peterson's lawyers want a new trial completely. And this should be a very interesting case. I really hope that this is televised so the world can see. And we've talked about this. Those who watch me regularly know how I feel when it comes to jurors not being honest, right? We've talked about it in the Ghislaine Maxwell matter, where Ghislaine Maxwell alleges, and it's come out that at least one for sure, because he's bragged about it to the press, but at least two other potential jurors who may not have been completely truthful may not have been completely truthful on their questionnaires regarding whether they were victims of a sexual abuse when they were younger. You have to disclose that, because if you're a victim, you're not going to sit on a jury, at least not a victim of one that's the same allegations. It doesn't happen, people. But you have to rely upon the jurors, potential jurors, to be truthful and honest. Well, so it's alleged then that this juror number 7, juror number 7 gets on the jury, does not disclose the fact that she had been the victim of domestic violence. Okay. And let's see here. Make sure I get her. Her last name is, I think it's just Nice, Nice. Rochelle Nice was juror number 7. And so she gets on the jury, fails to disclose that she had been beaten by a boyfriend while she was pregnant back in 2001. She also didn't disclose during that time period another pregnancy where she obtained a restraining order, considered a lawsuit against the ex-boyfriend who she feared would hurt her unborn child. I'm going on a limb here. No, I'm not. I'm not going far at all. It's not going to take much for somebody to say, yeah, she's not going to be on this jury. She seems like a nice lady, I'm sure. I'm sorry for the hardship she's gone through, but guess what? She is not right for this jury. And any defense attorney worth their salt would probably get rid of her, and a judge would probably grant that challenge for cause. Well, it gets even better. So obviously the defense attorneys and their investigators have investigated this, asking for a new trial based upon this, because if you can't trust the jurors to be fair and impartial, it basically screws up the entire jury system. You lose faith and confidence in it. And we're going to find out if that's what took place. But what did the prosecutors have to do for this hearing? They had to grant her immunity, right? And what does that mean? She was granted immunity because she has counsel and she would have asserted her rights against self-incrimination, right? It's anything that she says could possibly incriminate her. That is significant, okay? So they give her immunity so that she can testify. I think Scott Peterson's going to get a new trial. I really, really do. We'll see how things shake out. The hearing's supposed to last a week, and then the judge has 90 days in which to get these all started. The hearing's supposed to start the last week of February 25th. And then we got the lady who was she worked at the Catholic school, Mary Margaret Cooper, an 80-year-old nun, going to prison for stealing $835,000 for a gambling problem. I love that. I mean, seriously. People always think, sometimes I get scolded when people are like, oh, that person's so lovely. They're so nice, blah, 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 blah. Like she's a nun. I mean, oh, let me tell you about this priest I represented once, right? Okay, so people's titles and status just don't impress me. They don't impress me at all because I could probably tell you a story about somebody in the exact same position that did horrible, bad things. And so I just kind of take everybody with a grain of salt, try to judge them all based upon what I know about them. Try not to jump to conclusions at all because people can make mistakes. But yeah. And then finally for those today, our dumb criminal, Stephen Whalen down in Florida. Police pulled him over because they had previously known that he had not had a driver's license and that it was revoked. That's not good when the police know you so well that they know who you are and they know you don't have a driver's license. Anyway, he was pulled over, taken into custody, and his car was searched. They found a backpack of assorted drugs and baggies. When they asked about the drugs, Mr. Whalen responded saying those were not his drugs. Those are simply breath mints. Man, yeah, it turns out those breath mints may have been actually methamphetamine, fentanyl, and drugs, and some other drug paraphernalia. And, of course, they drive without a license charge. $4,400 bond, right? Just so like another public service announcement last week that we talked about, wear your sunscreens, kids, so you don't have to get, sunspots cut out of your scalp. It hurts. Don't do it. Here's the other thing. General rule of thumb, don't do drugs, but if you're going to do it, make sure you have a prescription. Oh, and by the other way, what's the word I'm looking for here is don't get caught with them if you're going to get caught. I'm not promoting drug use. I'm just saying it's a lot easier if you just did it that way. Okay? So there we go. Let's see here. Let me just take a quick look at this. Somebody sent me something. I want to see. Sorry, just looking. Okay. Oh, they've got the video. Okay. All right. What do you do when you see yourself on the evening news? Anywho, let me go here so I can see the chats because I didn't have the chats pulled up. Let me see what I can do about that. Because I know people are going to have comments. Does anybody tell what the comments are coming in for tonight? Like I said, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, it was a crazy day. Crazy day. There we go. We got the chats. All right. Let's see here. Well, we got a good crowd. Busy chats. Let's see. Oh, see? Mari forgot about Scott Peterson until he came in the news again. That's right. When you're in prison for the rest of your life, you have not a whole lot to do but to try to get out and try just about anything you want. And the nun, the poor nun, for goodness sakes. If you can't trust your own nun with the charity plate, who can you trust, right? When they pass the little baskets around. $800,000 on a gambling problem. Sister Mary Catherine, come on, it's crazy. Let's see. Want to know? Scott thinks Barry is going to get off. My gut tells me this will be like Casey Anthony. Yeah. Listen. My opinion on the Barry Morphew matter is, and I've tried to be objective as I can, okay? And for those of you who aren't familiar, obviously Barry Morphew is charged with the death of Suzanne Morphew, went missing back in 2020 on Mother's Day. And, he basically got arrested right about the same time, a year later, and is charged with the death of his wife. They haven't found her body. And when I first read the affidavit, it was like 132 pages. My first comment was like, never seen anything like this. And then, of course, now both judges in the Barry Morphew matter have commented on the fact that they've never seen an affidavit this lengthy. Well, the reason why they've never seen it this lengthy is you just don't need it. The reality of it is that if there is you have probable cause that somebody did it, you don't need 132 pages. And most of the stuff in the affidavit was completely inadmissible. It was the opinion testimony, so to speak, of the police officers. I don't believe that this person was credible. They got sweaty when I talked to them. I mean, stuff like that. He refused to take a polygraph test. All stuff that's not coming in, simply there to taint the jury. I mean, frankly, is a weak case. It shouldn't probably even have gone past a probable cause, but the standard for probable cause is so weak that it has to go there. But the prosecution in this case has not done well. And when the district attorney, for goodness sakes, is going on over at Profiling Evil with Mike King, who we've had on this show several times. We've been on his show. I like Mike King. I like him a lot. I really do. I'm not holding him responsible. I mean, he probably put a request out, said, hey, would you like to come on a show and talk? That's great. I think the DA made a poor decision in talking. I was surprised at the time. Remember when it happened? I was like, oh, I'm not sure she's supposed to be doing that. And so when you get admonished by the judge about that, not good. And just basically everything that the prosecution has kind of done in this case thus far, I mean, I hate to say it, is just not good. Good work at all. I don't know if Barry Morphew did it. We give everybody the presumption of innocence unless and until they've been convicted or they plead guilty in a court of law. So it's, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. All I know is his wife's gone. Certainly not criminal conduct. I mean, she allegedly had a boyfriend. She thought he had a girlfriend. Does that mean you're going to kill somebody? I don't know. Maybe there's alternate suspects. They have the whole DNA thing that the police officers messed up on. And the lead investigator in that case, who I've had an investigator in another case. Oh, there's some things I just can't talk about. Resigned because of an accidental discharge of his firearm at his house. And apparently he was less than truthful to investigators, hence the reason warranting his resignation. So when your lead investigator who's working the case resigns and quits, not going to make the best witness, because that's going to come in that he had credibility issues, truthfulness issues. Not good. But we'll have to wait and see. The trial's in May, and I'm thinking the defense is going to be ready to go and say, let's go in May. And anyone who's watched the show here knows what my philosophy is about that is go in the first setting. Okay? You got a homicide trial, go in the first setting. Prosecutors are never ready. They never think anybody's going to go in the first setting. Go for it. Go for it. So we'll see how that goes. And I hope they televise it. Let's take a look here. Just Jake, good question. I think it's ridiculous they're being charged at all. Let me see if I can find Jake's comment here. Just Jake. Let me see if I can find that there. And I'm not like but I'm just, if you do the super chat, they come up nice and big and bold. If it's, sometimes it's hard. And when they refer back to other ones, sorry, sometimes it's tough to say. What are your opinions on antitrust laws? I haven't really given it much thought in a while. If you're the biggest and the best, part of you kind of says you should be able to do what you want, right? I mean, you got Amazon, Google's, things like that. Do they compete? Do they control much of the marketplace? Sure, but maybe that's just because they're better. Remember when all those companies came in to being? There wasn't a whole lot of anything, and they, made it work. There's lots of companies that came in and tried to compete, and they weren't able to. If you're a capitalist pig, like I think I could basically characterize myself as that, it's kind of competition. If they start doing things, that are illegal, that they look like, some sort of criminal enterprise, and that's obviously bad. But like all things in life, if you look at it, you got small companies trying to compete with big companies. Once the small companies become the big companies, they're up there. Then they all band together. They usually then, hire all the lobbyists, create legislation to protect themselves. Sound familiar, right? Because like most things in life, corporations, they become their own opposite, right? Google, for example, right? Their whole thing was to put the world out there so that the only thing that you got was the best search result, not something that was manipulated through search terms, right? Now, of course, they realize, hey, if you pay, maybe your search term is a little better than the next guy. That was not their original intent. Their original intent was not, or was to, put every book out there so everybody can see it, basically free. But then they started making billions of dollars, and then they said, hey, let's make some money. But hey, they did it. They bought, Google bought YouTube. Here we are. But then they say you can't say this, you can't say that. And let's just cut to the chase, ladies and gentlemen. Censorship of any kind is wrong. Censorship of any kind is wrong. Okay? We cater to an adult audience. We are here to talk about legal matters that involve saying things that we can't say. Right? So that's why, we have to hold up these little cards sometimes. Oh, because we can't say that word. Nope, Google will shut you down. Oh, can't say that word either. That could scare people. We talk about this because things like this happen, right? But if you say those words, you get demonetized. If you say the J word, that's right. If you say his name, they'll demonetize you as well. Yeah. Oh, Just Jake. We'll come back to censorship, okay? Just Jake. Scott, if Ethan is being charged as an adult, how can they charge the parents too? Well, they're trying to charge him, basically on this criminally homicide. I don't have it in front of me just now, but we previously have done that, read the statute. And I just don't see how they get there. Maybe I'm wrong, okay? I can assure you, sometimes judges have looked at me like I have a third eye on my forehead. Well, frankly, I could think of yesterday, for example. Clearly, I was not making an argument well enough for the court to comprehend my legal analysis, which I thought was quite brilliant at the time. I say that humbly, but I still think I'm right. But the reality of it is, hey, fine, rule against me, judge. Not the first time, won't be the last. I have literally gone through cases where I've lost every motion, denied. It's one of those, like a TikTok video. Let's have the court tell Scott that he's an idiot without saying that he's an idiot. Court, you go first, right? Yeah. But I've had those cases where you lose every motion. I remember I had a guy. It was a client that I walked on first degree murder case, Leland Richardson. If you go back, it's one of our first podcasts, and he came in and talked about his experience of going, having to be in custody, being charged with first degree murder, ultimately acquitted. And he's like, yeah, we had some problems because we lost every motion. And Scott said, you think we're going to win them? No, we're not. We're not going to win them. The law is written so favorably in favor of the prosecution that the defense isn't going to do that. And then you have other circumstances where, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say there's maybe you may draw a certain judicial officer that does not have the willingness to put themselves out there and rule against the defense because, who wants to be the judge that's going soft on the defense? Nobody does. So, So just saying. Anyway, so let's get back to censorship. Censorship of any kind is wrong. It is, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care how mean, how hurtful, how ridiculous an idea may be. It is may be worthy of debate. Okay? And don't get me wrong, there's some things, like I said, it's funny to me that we have all these debates about, well, let's say, for example, there was the whole mask stuff, or was it the vaccine? Did you get this? Did you get that? Oh, you can't say that. You're being evil. You're going to kill everybody. And then you just notice in the last couple of days, it has been an absolute epidemic miracle. Suddenly, where the numbers are still higher than they were a year ago, that suddenly, okay, don't worry about wearing those masks. We've done some studies on it. Completely ineffective. Didn't help a bit. And yet, it couldn't even be discussed. There were people's channels taken down on YouTube and Facebook, and they're just saying, hey, I'm a doctor, and this stuff may not be right. And I'm not saying, I put on the little mask, I go into court. Like, I'm not going to fight that battle, right? But it was worthy of debate, ladies and gentlemen. But some people said, you can't do that. You're just trying to kill people. No, you're not, right? You can talk about the earth being flat, but they don't censor that, right? The only thing that really seems to have changed is the politics of it. We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. But if you go back and look at my old videos when all that stuff first started, and before Frank, the hardest working man in show business, was here, and even before Julie was here, we had Kyle, and we would sit in there, and I was the only guy that read all these stay-at-home orders. And if anybody actually read it, I was like, everybody is an essential worker, because if you did A, B, C, and D, you were an essential worker. If you supported A, B, C, and D, you were the essential worker. If you supported the people that supported A, B, C, D, and E, you were also, and it just went on and on. But everyone's like, hey, man, this is my free time to stay at home, right? And then there was another study the other day that said the lockdown basically did no good. This is a study, not my study. This is like CDC coming out and saying it, right? So they can't demonetize us now, right? Sure they won't. And it's not that big a deal. Okay, like I said, I got the vaccine. I've had COVID, worst 2 weeks of my life. Not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying, what's the word I'm looking for? What I'm looking for is, as a defense attorney, you have to be very skeptical, and that's what the founding fathers.
It's limited.
It just limited it?
Yeah, just limited.
Frank tells me they just limited the video because we mentioned those words. See? Censorship, ladies and gentlemen. Did we say anything? Yeah. Censorship. Okay, clumsy clairvoyance. It seems like Salem witch trials. Everyone wants to burn every defendant at the stake. Just saying, it's crazy. Absolutely right. Clumsy clairvoyance. That is what it is all about. I mean, think about the Salem witch trials. If you look back at so many times where people were wrong and so many people were persecuted, prosecuted, you just really. And I have a healthy skepticism of our government for somebody that's been doing criminal defense for so long that says, oh, the government says it must be true. Listen, if the government tells me to go right, I'm more than likely going to go left, okay? Because if you look at it, they normally get it wrong, okay? Or they overreact in such a way that they screw things up in the first place. So, just saying. All right, let's get back to cases. Censorship is it really bugs me. I just don't get it.
It's on the screen. Look at the screen.
CrimeTalk Live, talking about limited. Welcome to the most factory. Yep. Limited, ladies and gentlemen. Probably because, they're probably getting smarter because we held up the cards. Yep, that's right. We held up the cards. if you do any of this, you say any of these, even though this is what's going on in the news, even though this is talked about on the evening news, right? There's specials on it. You can't do it. You've been limited. Hold on a second. I thought I had a book here. Thought I had a book. Set it over here. Maybe it must be still in the office, but I found it when I was cleaning out something the other day. And it was the book called Googled, and it was about the history of the people from Google. And one of the guys, his father came from Russia and censorship, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted this free and open society. And yet here they are. They've completely become what they supposedly said they despised. So, clumsy clairvoyance, Rikita Law. Same thing happens to him all the time. It's serious, maddening. They demonetize everything. Yeah, it's funny, even though, because sometimes they demonetize us, but videos still run on it. So they make money, but we just don't get anything out of it. Captivate us. How'd you get COVID? I thought vaccines were supposed to keep you sick. Actually, I got COVID beforehand, before the vaccines. And it was literally two of the worst weeks of my life. The lovely Miss Kristen could attest to this fact. It was terrible. Okay. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Wouldn't want to do it again. And then when I got the vaccines, I got sick again. But I'm pretty sure I had the Omicron, but I tested negative the whole time. But of course, the vaccine didn't protect against that one. Which they now are admitting to. And of course they said if you had the vaccine, you couldn't get other people sick. And then they said, well, that's not the case. It only prevent you from going to the hospital in a really bad case. So I don't know. Just saying, when the government says something, be skeptical, okay? The old trust but verify. Just tell it the way it is, okay? I have no position either way. I'm just telling you. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. There's too much. This is the way it is. And then nobody in government, and this is the other thing I have with government. They'll never admit that they made a mistake. Not a single one of them. About anything will they ever admit that there was a mistake. So, anyway. What does limited mean? Put your muzzle on, Scott, Don. Go to run. YouTube needs a competitor. Yeah. I think there's a couple of them, but they don't have a big thing. So yeah. Let's talk back. Yeah, I mean, G2, even if the parents played a big part in the Ethan Crumley matter. I mean, think about it. Our legal system, ladies and gentlemen, is founded on the premise that we don't punish everybody for the acts of an individual, right? Since when, if you had, everybody has that one brother, that one uncle, right, that, gets in a little trouble. Can you imagine if he did something and they came and, said, we're going to punish you, you're his brother. You should have known better? Really? Like, you can't watch him 24/7. You have conspiracy where you have people, two or more people, agreeing to come together and commit an illegal act. Then you have complicity if you aid, encourage, abet, or assist somebody in the commission of an offense. But you have to know what you're getting into. That's it. You have to know what you're getting into. All right? Good example. I mean, if I were to go, say, to rob a bank, and I go in and rob a bank, I do it all myself, I would be charged as a principal. I was the main defendant, a principal. But let's say I went to my friends and I said, hey, Frank, I'm going to go rob this bank. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to be my getaway guy. Just drive the car. It won't be good. Guess what, right? They could charge either a conspiracy, and Frank says, hey, I'm in. Yeah, you betcha. You betcha. I'm in. We've agreed to commit an illegal act. And then we have to do something in furtherance of it. It has to be more than just talk for a conspiracy. You have to take an affirmative defense, an affirmative step to do that. So I said, I'm going to go rob a bank. I said, Frank, will you do this with me? He's like, sure. He goes, what do you need? I'm like, well, I need a car. We'll drive your car, Frank. Is that all right? We'll go do that. Completely hypothetical, Frank. We're not going to rob a bank. And I say, fine, you do that. I'm going to go get the ski masks. We've committed a conspiracy. Okay? Now, maybe they can't prove a conspiracy, so to speak, but they can say that you were complicit. Okay? If you aid, encourage, assist, abet somebody in the commission of an offense, you can be charged as a principal. Okay? So let's say, Frank and I, we did our bank robbery, and I said, hey, Frank, take a right down this street. I want to go see a buddy of mine. And as I drive by the house, I say, hey, Frank, hold on a second. Slow down a little bit here. And I pull out something and go pew, pew, pew. Is Frank guilty? Was he aiding, encouraging, abetting, or assisting me to do that? He didn't. He helped me at the bank robbery. Like, did that end? Or was he a complicitor? Or was he a co-conspirator that continued on? He didn't know anything about it. Frankly, he's just like, I'm driving here. But the prosecutor could argue is, well, you slowed down. If you saw his gun, he said, slow down. You're a complicit in that. You can be charged just as though he had taken a shot. Okay? Just like, robbing the bank type of example. It all depends on what you know. And if you don't know somebody's going to go do something, you can't and you shouldn't be held accountable for the actions of another. We have never done that. That's kind of the stuff they do like in China or Russia, right? Kim Jong-un up in North Korea, right? You do something wrong and they go burn down the house or knock it down. We don't do that in our legal system, right? You have to know what was going to take place. Not you think, oh yeah, I think my kid is troubled. I should probably give him 24/7 counseling, not let him out of my sight. Not possible, okay? So yeah. Let's see here. Just like the giant mistake in regards to the war leaving Afghanistan. And nobody ever admits anything. The government never admits that they're wrong. But fortunately, everybody always believes them, right? Russia, you're not supposed to say anything. Look at China in the Olympics now, right? People can't say anything. Is that really the way people want to live? I don't. Okay, Clumsy Caravan. Scott. Nick says after 2 hours, you can say literally whatever you want on YouTube, no demonetization. Okay, so we just have to keep going for that. And you guys should eat. Don't wait. We have a little ritual here. Not a ritual, I guess it's tradition. More of a tradition, not a ritual. It's not like we sacrifice, something before we begin. No, we always order in food. But tonight the day just went by so fast. It was literally like it's already 5:30. We haven't ordered food yet. So it was just sitting here getting cold. I'm like, they need to eat their food. I'll eat in between the break. Let's see here, please. Let's see here. Something about graffiti, the outrageous fearmonger in the past couple of years. Yeah, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I have represented clients that have been, I believe, innocent. I've represented clients that have done everything that's been charged. I've represented clients that have maybe done something, but not maybe what they're charged with. And the bottom line is that things are not always exactly the way the prosecutors allege them to be. I'm not saying they're not right. And, usually what you think is going to happen usually happens at a trial, right? Every now and then there's great information that comes out, but the what's the word I'm looking for? Usually what you think is going to happen happens. Or if you watch the whole trial and you watch the trial, you're not surprised by the verdict. It seems to be more people are shocked by the verdict when not that many people are able to see it, which is why I think that more and more trials should be televised. I think all court proceedings should be televised so that people can see what is going on. If the judges are, obviously most states, they're up for retention. They don't have lifetime appointments. People should be able to see what those judges are doing, right? Instead of just getting on the ballot and thinking, I don't know what this, keep them all, get them all, don't vote, right? You can go watch them for a little while. See, how do they treat everybody in the courtroom? I think a good judge is a judge that treats all parties with dignity and respect. And even if you lose, you're on the losing side that day, you can sit there and say, you know what? I had a fair shake. Okay? And that's all you can really ask for from a judge. Captivate us. Thank you for your super chat there. Not even a question, just a number one fan. We'll appreciate that. So, let's see here. How long do you think the Morphew case will take? I would think the Morphew case, a lot of that stuff, they need to pare it down. It's irrelevant. The prosecution, think about it. They have initial interaction. They're probably scrambling. They want to probably try to re-interview a lot of those people. Then they have to have embarrassment of that agent coming in. And then you got the other agents that, I would say no greater than 2 weeks. 2 weeks at the most, okay? Most homicide trials don't take that long, okay? Most of the time, it is an assault gone bad. And when I always remember, I think it was in law school, right, when the OJ trial was going on, and I used to listen to it. And I look back now and thought, how did that trial take, 8 months, 10 months? What a fiasco. I remember listening to it like, it's on the radio. I'm going to listen to it as I go to school, go to law school. I'm going to listen to it as I'm working. And I was just like, how in the hell could that trial? I look back now, I was like, other than the judge had no control over it one way. I have no idea what this is. Messiah of Kings. Scott, how much Scante do you smoke? What the hell is Scante? I don't know. I have no idea. Scott, the only thing Scott smokes is an occasional fine cigar. That's it. Sally says Scott says the state's case against Barry is a circus act. I did. They literally have got beat at every juncture so far. Maybe they can pull it together for trial, but they didn't really impress anybody at the preliminary hearing. They certainly didn't do a great job at the motions hearing. And frankly, Barry Morphew has won just about everything that he's asked for at this particular point. So prosecution needs to pull their act together and get it. I don't know how the case is going to turn out. I'm just telling you what I know, and we know just about everything in this case because of the affidavit for the arrest warrant. And if you think that's enough, okay, fine. Then let's subject it to cross-examination. But most of that stuff isn't even coming in at trial. It's not coming in. It's hearsay. It's speculation. It's completely inadmissible. It's going to be the elements of first-degree murder that the defendant, they have to prove that it was, in fact, the defendant, the elements of the charge. They have to prove that it was the defendant, not someone that looked like him, not someone using his identity or some other person, but it was, in fact, him. After deliberation, was responsible for the death of someone other than himself, to wit, his wife, who hasn't been found. The Patrick Frazee case that went down the road down there in Colorado Springs, or Teller County, I'm sorry. In that particular case, they didn't have a body because they had somebody that said, I helped them burn the body. And they said, this is the burn pit. There's where it took place. Makes it much more convincible. But really, until that witness came forward, they didn't have anything. Oh, and remember the nurse in that case, the one that said, this is what's going on? Remember who her attorney was? That's right, Drew Nielsen, one of Barry Morphew's attorneys. She's an excellent, excellent attorney. She knew what she had to do, the best situation for her client, and she got 3 years, and then she even got that sentence reduced back down to 15 months because the judge aggravated her, and the prosecution didn't put the magic words in the plea paperwork. So the judge, I think, actually gave a bad advisement on that one as well, but that's ultimately the prosecutor's responsibility as well. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Morphew's hired some very, very good attorneys. Iris Itan is a very, very good attorney, if not great attorney. They're both great attorneys. She's going to do well. So they're both going to do very well at trial. Let's see, Captivate Us. Let's see here. Please like and say. It's almost 2 a.m. and I'm not going to see the end of the stream. Well, thanks there, Sit and Spin, for joining us. All right, Captivate, thank you for your super stickers. I agree. Court TV shows judges behaving poorly. You know, like I said, and I get it. Judges all have bad days as well. They're human. But part of being a judge, and I've been called many times by judicial nominating committees of people that have been up for a judgeship, and they've put me as somebody that, we've done a trial within the last 3 years or something. And I'm usually very, very candid on those assessments. And I won't go into specifics, but let's just say there's one particular person that will never be a judge if I have anything to say about it. Okay? That particular person is a horrible human being and should not be sitting in judgment of anybody if they have no compassion whatsoever. There's other people who say they're great. They'd be great. They should move up to the next level. They're that good. So yeah, but every judge should treat everybody in the courtroom with dignity and respect. Obviously assuming like a defendant is not throwing or spitting or yelling at the judge, right? Then at that point, I think the judge has a right to shut that show down. But the judge should literally all right, present your motion. You go first. Then the defense is going to say. Then you say. That is what it boils down to. Is all judges be able to treat everyone with dignity and respect. And like anybody in life, if you hate your job, you should probably go find a new one. Some days I hate this job. And then I have other days that are great. And then you have other days where it just frustrates you so much. And then it fires you up again. And you're like, you know what? You're not going to screw my client. I am going to do everything I can to protect my client from all the resources of the people of the state of blank or of the United States government. You're not going to screw my client, because I've told you before, if we allow somebody to get screwed by the government, then they're going to start doing it to everybody. If we allow the government to start screwing and prosecuting and just basically manipulating people that are absolutely guilty, guess what? They will start doing it to everybody. They'll think they can get away with it. So not on my watch. And if you look at all the cases that go all the way to the United States Supreme Court in criminal law, who is the one that makes the original argument? It's that little street lawyer down there saying, this is not right. You can't do this. And the prosecutor goes in and is all smug. This judge never rules against me. This judge has never granted a motion for the defense ever. Okay, I get it. Let's do this thing. And you go in there and maybe it goes in and you get your teeth kicked in and you go to trial and you lose because the judge won't allow you to do, submit a defense instruction or doesn't allow it. And then it comes back on appeal. And they say, yeah, that little defense attorney one that you all just looked at like he's got a third eye on his forehead was correct. And maybe you guys should have listened to him. And not that I'm right all the time. Okay, I assure you, I've had judges tell me I'm not. But the reality of it is, if a judge would look at everybody with fairness and dignity and look at it and not make up their mind beforehand, things would be, well, let's just say a little more fair. Lake Superior Girl, 17. Do you think Barry is getting special treatment? I think he's going to get off. I don't think he's getting any special treatment at all. I really don't. He had a bond set in a case. I had a homicide, first-degree murder case set once. The bond was set at $75,000. Now, of course, it might as well have been $75 million because the client was indigent. and they sat in custody, and then finally the case was dismissed a week before trial. And everything that I had said that they couldn't prove, they finally figured out when they actually had to prepare their case. So once again, the prosecutor's not always right, but you got to go through the process. It sucks. That's what you got to do. Lori Barrett. Scott, I've wondered, when there's no question of guilt, why do prosecutors put on so much agonizing evidence? They have to. They have to present their evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. If they held back for some reason, guess what? The defense attorney is going to get up and say, is that all you got? Ladies and gentlemen, reasonable doubt. They failed to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense charged. They didn't show you this. They didn't show you that. Blah, blah, blah. Reasonable doubt. That's why they put the evidence on, even when everybody thinks the case is so overwhelming. And I don't care. I mean, the defendant has an absolute constitutional right. If it's on video, if he confessed, he can still say, prove it. Maybe he's got legal issues. Maybe he thinks something was searched. Maybe the statement was taken and it was illegally obtained. He's got to go through that process most of the time for those issues to be heard on the appellate court to see if they get reversed or sustained. So, and that's one of the reasons why in those cases where it's kind of, you think, oh, it's overwhelming, the prosecutor puts on so much evidence because there's a little unknown written rule. Okay, you're only going to hear this here on Crime Talk, so get ready for it. You won't find it in any law book. You won't find any judge that'll say it on the record. But there's a thing called the son of a bitch rule, okay? And if the guy is just a son of a bitch, the evidence is so bad, it's so overwhelming, then the courts say, in light of the overwhelming evidence, we find that although there was error in this trial, it was harmless because of the overwhelming evidence in the case. Another reason why they put it on. That's kind of the son of a bitch rule. Like, hey, yeah, this guy got screwed at trial, but let's face it, that little screwing ain't nothing compared to all the other evidence that they had stacked against this guy. So it's okay. Because after all, you're entitled to a fair trial, not a perfect trial. The prosecutors will always remind you of that on any sort of an appeal. Let's see here. Scott, wondered when there's no question. Okay, we fast. My thing jumped around here. Looks okay. Robert Kardashian face priceless. That was supposed to be his best friend. When he read the verdict, he looked absolutely stunned. I'll never forget his face. I remember that too. Shocked as could be. Let's see here. Could the prosecutions be intentionally seeming inept now to bring out the big guns at trial? No. Nobody wants to look incompetent ever. Okay? That's not a good trial strategy. I'm going to be incompetent. Yeah, no. Well, there you go. I mean, question, Grandma. If the Crumleys are being held responsible for the actions of their children, why not bring charges against Brian Landry's parents? Well, because there's no evidence that they participated or knew about anything, right? The Crumley case, they're trying to say there's text messages after the fact, as I understand them. Correct me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is there's text messages after the fact, like, oh my God, what have you done? Something to that effect. My understanding is they did not know that he had the weapon at school with him. And so, it's, I think it's a unique theory of prosecution. I get it. Attorney General, probably looking for higher office somewhere along the line, tired of these cases going on. And, yeah. So let's see here. What else we got here? Oh, Johnny, we love seeing your daughter. Yeah, we put up a little video when we went down to Dallas. I had to go for work, but that's where my daughter was. Okay. Aaron says, Scott, I am desperate, need of some help, and I know if anyone can help me, Well, being honest, it's you. How am I getting in touch with you off of your social media? Well, Aaron, I guess you can send an email, but CrimeTalk, what is it?
Yeah, CrimeTalk is copyright.
Oh, CrimeTalk at Scott. Okay, CrimeTalk at reichlawfirm.com.
Yeah, you're right.
There you go. And we'll don't do anything silly, okay? Anyway, I don't know what this is about, but there you go. Oh, yeah, the Super Bowl's coming up here. KDB, 49er fans, so I'll be rooting for the Bengals since we got ousted by the Rams, that horrible playoff game. I think it's some of the best football I've seen in a long, long time. Seriously. Scott, what do you think of the trucker convoy headed to D.C. for the 1st of March? I don't know. I thought they were still in Canada, weren't they? Are they going to? I don't know. Hey, we believe in all the. We believe in the Constitution. We like all of the amendments, and you certainly have a right to let the government know of how you feel, and we're certainly in favor of that. I think people should exercise their constitutional rights on a daily basis. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, freedom of speech, press, the right to people to peacefully assemble. I think as long as it's all done peacefully, what's wrong with that? Lets people know what the heck's going on in the world. Let's see here. Welcome. Let's see if there's something pop up. Okay, welcome. Lost student. Let's see if that one. Do you have any opinion on Hank Williams Jr.'s son, Sam, being put in conservatorship, making YouTube videos saying he wants out? I haven't heard anything about that. Sorry, Carrie D. Thank you for the super chat, but I do not know anything about that. Robert Simpson wants to know, why do so many lawyers commit suicide? Well, I mean, think about it. This is stuff they don't teach you in law school. And I've known lots of lawyers over the years that have committed suicide. It's unfortunate. And, you have the weight of your clients on you. And it's not like you're going to work and you're putting, moving item A to item B, and you're constantly thinking about it. How do you turn it off? Yeah, you try to turn it off by the time you get home, but then the phone rings, and then there's an email, and then you turn it back on. Or you're sitting in a movie theater, and all of a sudden you start thinking about a case because of something you see in the movie. There's a lot of pressure. And, I hate to say it, but not... What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Well, I mean, I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. Well, I will. Let's see here. The lovely Miss Kristen sending me a text. I just had to check that. Why do so many lawyers commit suicide? Well, I've known several that have, but they didn't tell me before, and frankly, everybody thought they were fine. But it is a job that has a lot of pressure. You have a lot of pressure on you to fix other people's problems, usually of their making. Oftentimes people, you obviously give them the best advice that you have based upon the information that you possess at the time. And it's not uncommon for clients when you'd say go do A, they go and do B. And then when they do B and it turns out negatively, they say, well, why didn't you tell me stronger not to do B? I'm like, I told you not to do B. What am I supposed to do? Right? There's just a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure. If you work for a big firm, they expect you to bill. They expect you to bring in clients, get the new clients, keep the old clients happy, work long hours. And, I don't know how it is with big law firms these days, but, it used to be you had to, if you weren't working 12, 14-hour days, at least 6 days a week, you certainly weren't on the partner track. And that's just the way it is. There's a lot of pressure. More than I think most more than most professions. I don't think most people realize it. And just think about it. We've mentioned this before. Remember when you had to do that report in school? All right, you had to do the report in school, and you're like, oh, this is going to be real quick. And it turned out to take a lot longer than you thought it would. Well, welcome to the practice of law on a daily basis. Writing letters, responding to motions, drafting motions. Even when, I have people, that can assist me with that these days. But when you're younger, you do it all yourself. And then, it's time consuming. So when do you get real work done when you're an attorney, particularly if you don't have a large enough staff or something along those lines? Evenings and weekends. Well, doesn't exactly create a good home life when you're gone on evenings and weekends every day working on other people's problems, and yet you don't have time to take care of your own. So, word of advice to aspiring young attorneys, take care of yourself. I have to remind that of myself about every 5 to 6 years. You have to take care of yourself. So, you're going to realize I'm totally uninformed, but who are the Chumleys? Spelling questionable. The Chumleys were the parents of the shooter Ethan Crumley up in Michigan. So let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Great. Let's see a couple more questions here. Not a firing squad. A jury can say no. I shot no. Yeah. Phil wants to know, can the Crumleys sue the state if the judge says a trial shouldn't take place? Basically, the case being thrown out of preliminary hearing. No. And the reason being is the judge had previously found probable cause, and therefore the case can go forward. And the government has immunity. You can only sue the government if the government gives you permission to sue them. Bottom line. So sorry about that. Sorry you spent the last couple months in custody, or if the case goes forward and you go all the way to trial and you get acquitted, yeah, they're not going to apologize. In fact, they're going to be, can't believe that jury. If they only knew what didn't come in, they would have found him guilty. You get nothing. Only if maybe you could show that someone was there based upon false evidence presented by the prosecution or something along those lines. Maybe you get some money, but that's usually after decades in prison. You just want to get it over with. So, let's see here. Answer a couple more questions. Let's see. Hey, Scott, will you be at CrimeCon in Las Vegas? Dixie wants to know that. I believe it's the last week in March? May? I thought I sent you guys the email.
Yes.
CrimeCon? Last week in March.
Yeah.
It's at Paris, I think, right?
Oh, I thought it was Vegas.
Well, Paris in Vegas,
Oh.
the hotel. Well, you've never been to Vegas, right?
No.
April
29th.
April 28th and 29th, apparently, is what I'm being told.
We have a booth with a 10-foot table.
Yeah, so apparently, because we signed up to go to this years and years ago, we should probably see if they have any sponsorship opportunities like they did years ago. Mm-hmm. And then it all got canceled because of the C word. Can't say it. But I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, man. They were like, anything goes, man. Just wear your mask. Do whatever you want. Just wear a mask. And I think I still got sick, but the reality of it is, it's like, yeah. So I think the plan is, I think we're going to be at CrimeCon, and that's the plan. So hopefully the lovely Miss Kristen will join us. We'll have to pack up Julie and Frank, block those dates out. We'll be there.
I'm going to dress up as a judge.
Major DZ. Scott, do you think Murdoch, I'm going to change some of the wording, is responsible for the death of his wife and his kids? I think it's a huge next big twist. I'll be honest with you, Major DZ, I don't know. He's certainly a person of interest. The police have said so because his children, or the wife and child, I think, happened to be shot with his firearms at his property. And given his alleged level of deception that he has been able to display over the course of many, many years in the course of swindling clients, getting others involved. Conspiracy? Complicity? Yes, probably. It wouldn't surprise me if he was charged. It's just a question of whether they can do that. If they can get enough evidence. I don't know. I don't know if he did it or he had somebody else to do it. We may never, ever know. Certainly makes you go, But the reality of it is, we've talked about this before, it doesn't matter what you think. It only matters what you can prove. Somebody's from Australia. What is the next step for Aiden Fucci, given his age? He's being tried as an adult. The trial, I think, is set in November. And, I think the reason for the delay was because his attorneys had other, I think, death penalty cases or something going on. They were busy. Scott, glad you get to balance. This is Audrey Jensen. Glad you balance flying and work to enjoy life. Love the flight videos. Thank you. Well, yeah, and for those who don't know, I do have a little plane. Nothing fancy. I assure you of that. But it gets us from point A to point B, and we're able to fly. And so after many, many tries, we think we have cracked the code with a 360 camera that we can put in there, and then another camera that does the audio. And I think Frank's working on it, but I had to fly to Grand Junction yesterday, and it was absolutely a beautiful day. Snow-covered mountaintops, flying over 22,000 feet, and they got the 14ers below. And then you go into Grand Junction, and it turns into the Grand Mesa, where, it looks like something out of Jurassic Park. Not Jurassic Park, but like the desert, like in the Grand Canyon. And you fly in, and hopefully we got some good pictures of it. And we put that over on Plane Talk. I'm sure they could put a little link up to it. And I think Frank put a quick clip up of me taking off from Grand Junction. I wish I should have put the camera on the other side, because that's where the Grand Mesa was. It would have been a little better view. But yeah. So yeah, who knows? One of these days, Scott would like to get a jet. Just saying, every kid's got a dream. We've talked about this. We've even had one of our Patreon members, her husband worked for Gulfstream and sent me a Gulfstream care package. Now all I need is a ride in a G6 right out of the factory. Wow, would that be cool? Yeah, that would be cool. But I'm really waiting on, and although it's not going to happen, I keep telling my son, who's in the Air Force, when am I going to get a ride in F-16? That's what I need. I need a ride in F-16. My life would be, I could die at that very moment. My life would be completely happy. Just saying. All right. Jam. Scott, is there not a statute of limitation on perjury? The jury from the Peterson trial may be offered immunity, saying she lied to get on his jury. She was offered immunity. She's been granted immunity, as I understand it. Otherwise, she would take the Fifth Amendment. Normally, there is no perjury. There's usually exceptions, and I don't want to say what California law is because I don't know it off the top of my head. But clearly, she could be, at minimum, she could be held in contempt of court. The perjury statute of limitations may have run, but she could be, basically held in contempt, which usually carries 6 months up to a year in jail. It just depends. I'm not going to say no off the top of my head, but she said, she was granted immunity. You only grant immunity when you assert the Fifth, and then they give it to you. So that's good. Hopefully the truth comes out. If she was not truthful, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you can't lie. You can't lie. But she did what everybody did. And she probably thought, who needs a lawyer? He's lawyering up. He's got a whole team of lawyers, right? He must be guilty. And now, here she is, 15 years later? What is she saying?
All right, lawyer.
That's right. 3 magic words. They have to stop the interrogation right then.
Lawyer.
Yep. And you never know when it's going to happen. Could be you. You just never, ever know. So let's see here. Let's see. Rebecca, or J. Greer says, Rebecca, I grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust. Everything over the past couple of years is pretty much in lockstep with what went on with World War II. This isn't new. History repeats itself, ladies and gentlemen. History repeats itself. It always does. What do they say? History may not always repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes, right? I mean, and I've said this before about even the law. You think any of this stuff is new? You think they haven't been dealing with these issues that come up in the law since the beginning of civilization? Of course they have. And they've dealt with it. And as things have gone on, it's gotten more complex, and maybe it's now a little more technology, but it's the same stuff, right? I've said, maybe making it a little too simplistic, but sex, drugs, and alcohol, right? That's what it is. Sex, drugs, and alcohol. As long as those three things will continue to go on, there will always be a need for prosecutors and defense attorneys. Just saying. Sometimes it can bring out the best of people. Sometimes it can bring out the worst. But people have been dealing with it at the same time. And you can package it, repackage it, say we're going to try a new, kinder, gentler way, big hug. The reality of it is everybody knows what works. And, you know, somebody trying to get that new little certificate to hang in their cubicle saying, let's go try this, is not always the right way that things are going to work. So it's not anything new. It's been going on forever. It's just in the press a lot more. People are more willing to come forward. Scott, when do you think the Daybells will go to trial? I'm not sure Lori Vallow, Daybell, will ever get to trial. And I mean, the bottom line is I don't think she's going to be restored to competency, at least not anytime soon, or it's going to take a heck of a lot of drugs to do that. Is it Juana Michelle? You're my favorite badass lawyer, Scott. Well, thanks. Thanks, Michelle. We appreciate that. We try to get it right. We try to get it right. We try to tell you straightforward. Whirlybird 68. My son is in prison in Louisiana. He has mental disabilities and was beaten by inmates. I'm looking for an attorney who will represent him. We have video evidence. Whirlybird 68. I would go to find a civil rights attorney or post-conviction relief attorney in your area. All right. Gosh, can you believe how quickly that goes by? Wow, man, so fast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It's time to go to our Patreon show for our Patreon members. So if you haven't joined Patreon, now would be a good time to do that so you can get the magic link and join us over there for the Patreon show. Because once again, we'll answer your questions. It's a lot fewer people, but everyone's welcome to join. There's no limit. And you can also call in and we can have a conversation. So why don't you go ahead and do that? We're going to say good evening. Thank you. Hold on. Duty Ron. Here we go. Sorry. Always good to hear from my favorite criminal defense attorney. Hold court. Hello, Scott. Well, thank you, Duty Ron. And I think we got an email. We're going to do something with Duty Ron here real soon. It's just the last couple of days have been busy. Thank you. We're going to do something. All right. I want to thank everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a subscriber. We know you have lots of things you could do. The fact that you take time to watch us does not go unnoticed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully I should be able to get back on track. Just been a crazy couple of days. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. We'll be on our Patreon in like 5 minutes. I'm going to eat really fast.